started. Hello and welcome to Fostering Relationships for Inclusion, presented by Dr. Shauna Preston and Brandy Heiss. My name is Juliet Anyanwu, Programs the Supporting Inclusive Practices Project, and I am thrilled to be your moderator for this breakout session. But first, a few logistics. So this session will be recorded and it will be archived on the conference agenda page after for about 1 month. And closed captioning is available clicking on the CC button on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. The interpretation icon in the same area will provide access to Spanish translation. We will ensure that the ASL interpreter are spotlighted alongside the PowerPoint and presenter. Please make sure your volume is muted to avoid background distractions while presenters are speaking. And we encourage you to engage with others in the chat. And when possible, keep your cameras on so we can see all your lovely faces. And with that said, I'll turn it over to our presenters.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Shauna Preston.
And I'm Brandy.
And with me is the amazing Brandy Heiss. I know she wanted to introduce herself, but I like to take charge because it's such an honor to be working with Brandy. Brandy is a teacher in our district, and I'm a special education director. We are in a mid-sized district in Southern California, and it is our honor and pleasure to share with you our journey regarding inclusion in our district. So we would like to share with you today. We'll talk about the traditional approach, which is very much skill-based, and we'll share with you how we as a district shifted to a new paradigm that is based on peer connections. We'll talk about the impact on students with and without disabilities, which we find absolutely amazing, and the transformation of our district's inclusive practices in the areas of academics, athletics, and co-curricular activities. And very briefly, we will just make you aware. We will not necessarily dive deep into the legal requirements for LRE and supports for students attending co-curricular activities, but our goal is here just to make everybody aware of this particular concept. And we'll be happy to share how to replicate the peer mentoring program. Now, before we get started, we wanted to get an understanding of who is in the audience. So if you can just let us know, put into the chat box if you are a district admin, if you're a teacher, if you're a related service provider, and maybe specify, are you providing speech, OT? Are you a SLPA? Are you a parent? Are you a member or representative of a collective bargaining agreement? Or if you are an attorney, just let us know. Thank you so much. Right, we see teacher, district administrator, wonderful, support provider, connection family resource, program specialist, kinder and fourth grade inclusion co-teaching teams. So fabulous to see that. Preschool specialist, site supervisor, systems support supervisor, coach, psychiatric social worker. Excellent site admin and inclusive model school. Thank you so very much. It's just wonderful to see such a wide range of educators and people interested in inclusion. We welcome all of you. So first of all, we just wanted to introduce the fact that equity and inclusion are a school board priority in our district. I mean, truly, our entire district is very much committed to equity and inclusion. And it wasn't right away that we realized that both concepts live together and the journey has to be combined between equity and inclusion. At some point, I think when we started our equity initiative, it was a little bit, taking a separate life, but very soon we realized that the principles of inclusion apply and are really rooted in equity. So that is a priority for our school district administrators, to our Board of Education, to our teachers, parents, our entire community. And it took us many, many years to build that, but this is where we're at. And how inclusion and equity is part of our district is it really starts from the top. So we have an annual strategic planning event when our senior administration and the members of the Board of Education sit down together for a full day, and we review the progress we have made in many of the areas, in many of the goals that we have developed. And then as a team, we develop directions for the future year. And inclusion has always been part of the annual strategic planning. And this year, I think the difference is that it actually even has a specific section with goals and activities that are more prominently displayed and just really are present in our strategic planning. In addition to that, we collaborate with various groups in our district. The parent voices come from the African American Parent Advisory Committee. We have an English language learner parent advisory committee, a Latino parent advisory committee, and a special education parent advisory committee. So out of all these PACs, the CPAC has been the one that's been in the district the longest. It's been in our district over 22, maybe 23 years. And we have, each of the PACs have meetings, and we also have a partnership for Thriving Parents Committee, which involves representatives from all the PACs, and our equity coordinator, Tamara Dewey, who does a wonderful job, leads all PACs together, and we coordinate activities. We participate in each other's events. As an executive director of special education, as an example, on Tuesday night, I was at the APAC meeting, and they were conducting a beautiful ceremony called Rites of Passage. And again, it's just a very strong collaboration between all the PACs, and the parent voices are very strong in our district. We also listen to our students and staff as well, and those come through various leadership committees. And we do have a full-time equity coordinator who helps lead the equity and inclusion initiative in our district. So generally speaking, we wanted to clarify that when we speak about inclusion, because this may be taking on so many different meanings, that in this case, we really are referring to inclusion of students with disabilities who are attending learning and growing in general education classes and co-curricular activities. So our inclusion concept really expands beyond the school day. And it is not just simply placing students with disabilities into the general education classroom. We look at inclusion as a concept of school belonging and what it takes to be effective, to be a successful student, and just really be part of the school. And we do think that the extracurricular activities, athletics, different events that parents are involved in, all of them become part of inclusion. It is not just the instructional piece or social emotional support that we provide in the classroom. That has been our approach in the years past, or that was our approach, but we have expanded it. Now, the why of inclusion in Murrieta is really tied to the core values of the district. As I shared earlier, it is a board priority. It is a priority for our school district, and it is rooted in equity. And inclusion is beneficial for all students. And I think that is critical to understand, that our general education students benefit as much, if not more, from the inclusion of students with disabilities. Now, the impacts of inclusion definitely have in the academic areas, the social emotional areas, and we do believe in post-school life as well, because we have noticed, and Brandy will talk about this a lot in detail, our students who participate in inclusive activities, and specifically in our peer mentoring activities, they do make decisions for after school. They want to go into education. And in addition, it just really, inclusive opportunities give all students an opportunity to work as a team and collaborate with people who are very diverse and different from you. And we do believe that to be successful in a post-school life setting, such as a job or college, it's really critical to be able to have those skills, to know how to work with a diverse team, how to lead a diverse team, how to support others understand them. The other huge impact is on the organization. we as a school district have really turned around the culture because of the inclusive activities. We have an amazing supporting mindset of inclusion, and that is due to the inclusive practices that we'll be discussing today. It is a district-wide culture, and it does involve our entire community. So when we look at ourselves in the years past, and I've been in the district for over 23 years, and I remember starting as a program specialist in the district, our approach to inclusion was very much skill-based. And when I say skill-based, I mean, a lot of the discussions are held in the IEP meetings, and they were about what are the students' abilities to be successfully included in the general education classroom. We talked about the student's skills, like does the student stay on task? Can the student follow directions? Is the student disruptive? And we definitely looked at the Rachel H factors from just looking at what are the academic, non-academic benefits, and what is the impact of the student who is included on the other students in the class. So that approach was skill-based. In addition, we also looked at the skills of our employees. Do we have a trained instructional aide who may support the student with a moderate to severe disability in the general education inclusive setting? Does the teacher have the appropriate training? And again, it was very much a skill-based approach. And we would discuss progress. It was the IEP would discuss impact on other students, and specifically if there were disruptions or disruption to the learning of others. Those were factors that we considered. While we still stay true to this approach in the IEP meeting, there is so much more that discusses inclusion, or there's so much more that's done to support inclusion that we realized very quickly that the traditional approach, while it is legally accurate and it's very helpful to the IEP process, it provides little to no consideration to the culture of inclusion and the general education peers' preparedness and attitudes and abilities. So while we did discuss inclusive IEP discussions, inclusive IEP discussions would take place, they would really not consider the entire school culture and whether the school was ready and was the soil really good for this, for the students' ability to grow and thrive. So those are the things that really changed, and I feel like we were moving from the skill-based approach to something more, and really considering the necessity of building culture around inclusion, so inclusion is possible and successful. So when we talk about the culture, we really are talking about the relationships that are at the core of the success of inclusion. So while the traditional approach is logical, again, it doesn't really capitalize on the key components of the inclusion programs, and it doesn't capitalize on the relationship building that we need to focus on between the students with disabilities and students without disabilities. So where do kids relate and build relationships? They definitely do that in the classroom. So our first bubble is the academics. Definitely there are relationship building efforts and activities going on in the classroom. As adults, teachers, support that, and they try to do the best they can to make sure that there is a good classroom environment for those to grow, but they were not as intentional and as focused. Now, we also know that students make friends and build relationship in athletics, and definitely in extracurricular activities. There is a lot of relationship building going there. And this is where we wanted to focus our efforts and make sure that we do bring some structure so that these relationship building initiatives are really successful and effective. So when we look at the relationship effect on student achievement, we know that John Hattie definitely talked about the greater effect that relationships that teachers have with their students have on the academic growth and the social emotional growth and socioeconomic status, more than the social economic status or professional development, class size, or any type of special programs. Really, the relationships outweigh and are just so important. We also know that positive student relationships are fundamental to success, and it can lead to increased classroom engagement and academic success. And we also saw during the pandemic that the lack of connections impair our students' ability to learn in the classroom. So again, these were just supporting, research supports that relationship building is critical for student success, and it is critical for inclusion. And we in our district use relationships as the main foundation for promoting inclusion. So when we talk about the inclusion, so we talk about the student relationships and the inclusion trifecta and the support of building and fostering student relationships in the academic setting, in athletics, and in extracurricular activities.
Okay, so the first portion that we're going to talk about is how we are working with inclusion through academics. And one way that we're addressing inclusion through academics is a course that we call inclusive peer mentoring. So this is a course that is supporting students with differing needs academically, socially, and emotionally using what we call Bronco Buddies at my campus. So we're the Broncos. So we call it Bronco Buddies. There's another campus that are the Colts. They call it Colts Crew. And it's really just pairing students together to allow for additional support. And this is giving students access to classes that they wouldn't otherwise be able to attend successfully without this peer mentor that we're providing them. And then I'll be talking about our end of the year culminating project, which is kind of a wrap up of our entire year. So what is inclusive peer mentoring? This is a course that we have in our district. It is a general education elective. So it is open to students in grades 6 through 12. We have 4 middle schools. All of our middle schools have the program. We currently have it at my high school, and then we're looking to expand it to the other 2 high schools next year. So the students do receive an elective credit for this course. Mentors are paired with a buddy to give them support. So they can go to a PE class, an elective class, or an academic course, and they are trained in how to support that student. So they're trained, for instance, by me at my site, by the inclusive peer mentoring teachers. So the way that I do it is in August, the day before school starts, we meet for 4 hours. And then once a month, we're meeting during our office hours time, which is kind of built-in time into our schedule for students to get additional support that they need. Or we have a late start day once a week, and we build into that. So once a month, we're meeting then too. And we're training our mentors in the importance of inclusive education, people first language, levels of prompting, accommodations versus modifications, how to implement those, friendship training, and creating tools, and then kind of whatever else kind of comes up on the fly. So what students do in this class is they act similar to a one-on-one student, a one-on-one aide in a classroom. So they're implementing accommodations and modifications that are put in place by either myself or the case carrier. They're helping to keep students engaged and on task. They're fostering friendships and facilitating social interactions with the student they're working with, and they're helping them to complete work and get things turned in. We adopted this program from Dr. Rebecca Brooks. She is a professor at California State University, San Marcos. And I was in the credential program, and she was one of my professors. And she was talking all the time about these programs that she ran when she taught in the San Diego high schools. And she would talk about like how the implementation worked and the success for both the buddies and the mentors. And I just knew it was a program that we needed in our district. So I brought it to administration, and we were able over a little bit of time to get that going, and it started to grow. So the way that we recruit students for this is we're looking for leadership style students. So students who could be interested in education, social services, or counseling long-term, or it could just be a student who has a heart for helping others. A lot of our mentors have people in their personal lives that they already connect with who have differing needs. So they want to still connect and give back to those students. We list it in our course catalog. It has, we wrote the course, and so it has a course description. We have videos and flyers that we play on our news network within our school. So as kind of it's registration time, you'll see those prompts going on the videos. We have flyers out in the hallways. We provide our counselors with flyers, especially when they're doing pull-out sessions with students, just so that they kind of have the opportunity to learn about it. And then we attend all of the parent and student information nights. So at our middle schools, we have incoming 6th grade night. At our high schools, we have incoming freshman night. And so we have tables set up there where we are talking about the program, and I have mentors who are there who are telling them what they've done in the program. And we also go to our middle school kickoff meeting. So our high school students will go to our middle school and they kind of put on a big production about what it's like to be in high school, and we're represented there too. But my favorite way to recruit students is through word of mouth. So I had several students coming in at the beginning of the semester saying, hey, my friend is in this class, and they were telling me about it, and I really want to be in it. So that is one of the best ways, because they already have buy-in, they've heard about the program, and they know that they want to be a part of it. There are so many impacts to inclusive peer mentoring, and they're impacting both the person who is receiving the support and the person who's giving the support. So first of all, we have equal access. It's our responsibility to put students in the least restrictive environment. And with peer mentors, we're able to take that least restrictive environment to the next level. So we are able to allow students to access general education courses or courses at the next academic level that may still be in a special education setting with the support of a mentor. So we're providing access to programs all over campus that students normally wouldn't be able to access on their own. Social inclusion is a huge impact. So prior to mentoring, an adult was the only way that a student could have opportunities outside of a classroom that they, with the proper support. So if you take that adult away, or if you pull them to the background. So for instance, if a student has a one-on-one, we would never remove a one-on-one person from the room. They're legally obligated on the IEP to be there. And obviously that student needs that support. So that one-on-one aid stays in the classroom, but we hope over a little bit of time with some trust between the mentor, the buddy, and the aide that they can start to pull back to the back of the room and allow that peer to take over some of the support. So as we're removing adults or pulling them back and adding in peers, we're automatically including students more into the social culture of the classroom. So adults are a super effective way to provide support. However, they do come with a stigma. So it's difficult for the other students in the classroom to fully accept a student as a peer when they have an adult sitting right next to them all of the time. But if you can replace that adult, at least visually, with a peer, they automatically become more part of the social part of the class. Relevant experience. So we know how the student who is receiving support is benefiting from mentoring. They're having access to all these things they wouldn't have access to. They're getting additional support in the class. They're making a new friend. They're helping to make other friends. But there is a huge impact on the mentors as well. So you can't overlook that. They're learning life skills, job skills right there in class. So I had 3 mentors last year who have chosen majors in college or career paths in education or psychology, and it's been based off of their experience and interactions with their buddies in the program. So I had one student who was a senior last year, and she was supporting another senior in a foods class, and they just had such a great connection. And over the summer, they continued to hang out, and they would go to like play miniature golf and go out to dinner. And they were spending so much time together that the buddy's mom suggested that the mentor contact the respite program that the family works with. And she was able to connect with them and get a job, which allowed her to continue to hanging out with him and providing support to this student, keeping that friendship going. And she was able to continue her education while making some money. I have another student who started in pre-law, and then she texted me about 6 months ago and said, hey, I changed to education, and I just got a job as a behavior technician working with students on the autism spectrum. And then my daughter, who was kind of the pilot for this program, she started with one of our students who you'll see in a couple of minutes, supporting him. And she is going in the fall to work or to go to college to study special education. And she wants to take over the peer mentoring program someday. There's so much hands-on experience that these students are doing. So yes, we are training them. We're talking about things. We're using our learning platform to kind of push information out weekly, but they're getting hands-on experience with their buddy in class, and that's the most impactful thing. So we have several students who are nonverbal, and they're working with mentors, and their mentors are learning how to use communication boards and iPads so that they can communicate, or ASL, communicate effectively with them. We had one student who was really struggling socially, and he was in a class with a mentor in math class this year. And he asked her if she could help him to make friends, because he felt like he didn't have any friends. So in math class, she was able to take little pockets of time to give examples of how to talk to people. And she was able to facilitate him asking a new person to hang out at break, which that person agreed to do. So this buddy did not have the skills to make a friend on his own, but he had the trust of his mentor to ask her to help him, and she was able to do that. We have multiple buddies who have medical needs. And so the mentors are learning to support these medical needs with the proper adults still present. So we had one buddy pair, and that student had a lot of medical needs, so they had a full-time nurse with them. And the mentor was just talking to the nurse throughout the semester and asking questions and just learning more about kind of some of her different needs. And at one point, the student had a drop seizure. And because the mentor had been talking to the nurse and asking questions, she was able to support the student with the nurse right there through that seizure. And that's just something you could never get from a regular classroom experience or just information out of a book. We can collect data, simple data. So none of our mentors are giving any specifics on an IEP. They don't know specifically that their student has an IEP. They're not told about any of their eligibility. They don't have access to the IEP. So we're not breaking any confidentiality, but they do spend a good amount of time at the beginning when they first meet their buddy, just observing them in the class that they're in and figuring out what are their needs in that particular class. It might be like waiting to take turns, completing work, talking to new people, asking for breaks. And so as they start to observe what that student needs, we have a weekly sheet, which I can give you access to later. And they would write down kind of what they created goals for their buddies for that week. And then as they had a chance to work on those things, they mark those down and they can share that information with myself and their case carrier. It also has a little reflection on there. So they give us like a little feedback about how they've been progressing throughout the week. It's super cost effective. So it's not free. We still have teachers, they're paying me to teach this class, and we're not getting rid of any classroom aides. We're not getting rid of any one-on-one aides, but we're not paying any additional adults, but we are supporting in more places. So we can help many students at the same time all over campus without paying any additional adults with the addition of these peers. So students are out of self-contained classrooms more with no additional cost to what we already have in place with our staff. And that makes for happy students, and happy students makes for happy parents, which makes for happy administrators. So in 2021-22, last school year, we started this program, and we started with 14 mentors, and we were supporting in 9 different courses. So we started slow. We started with PE and electives. So you can see these puzzle pieces here. These were the courses that we started in. So this was last school year. This year, in 22-23, we have 43 mentors, and we're supporting in 22 different courses. So you can see the list on the right. Those are the courses we're supporting in this year. So we have been able, we're still in PE and electives, but we've also been able to add in all academic courses also. So we have our moderate severe students, some of them who are kind of like on the verge of coming out of moderate severe. They're just a little bit higher in certain areas. They're actually pushing into mild, moderate English, math, science, history classes with the support of a mentor. We also have mild, moderate SDC students who are pushing out into RSP classes with the support of a mentor. And then we're supporting all levels of students still in general education, PE, and elective courses. So the growth of the number is huge. I mean, we tripled the number of students we're supporting and the number of students who are giving support, but what we're supporting is even more impactful because we're allowing students access to that next level of academic course that they typically wouldn't be able to access without that support. So we are spending time educating our mentors and our general education teachers. So we did learn that we had to do a little education there too on things like there's a diploma track and a certificate of completion track. So we talked about what those things are. And if we have a student who, we have students who are in classes for all different purposes. Some of them are there to master content. Some of them are there for exposure of content, and some of them are there purely for social interaction. So when we give that information to the mentors and to the general education teachers, it takes a lot off of their plate. It allows them to understand what that student is there for. So once we've kind of explained that to them, we know that if we have a student who is on a diploma track and a mentor is helping them in math class, that mentor knows that they cannot take any work away from them. They cannot do anything specifically for them. We can't modify the curriculum, but we can implement accommodations. So they're learning those different things. If we have a student who's in art class and they're there for the social interaction and to be exposed to the content, then we have a little bit more free range to modify assignments and limit things that they have to do. And so it's really completely individualized for each person. Our culminating project. This is the best night of the year. So ours is Monday. So we're just gearing up for it. And so what this is it's a celebration of what our buddies have accomplished throughout the year. So our mentors have little checkpoints throughout the year where they're kind of piecing this project together. And it can be anything they want it to do. It could be a PowerPoint, an iMovie, a poster, a scrapbook, whatever they want to do. So for instance, we have students in dance class, they're most likely going to make a video. We have students in art class, they're more likely going to do something that they can kind of highlight their art. But they are piecing this together and the mentor puts the entire project together. That is one of their main projects for the year. And then they meet with their buddy and they present it together. So yesterday we met during office hours and all of our mentors brought their final product and they met with their buddies and they showed them the product. Look at all of these amazing things you did this year. And they talked about how all of their parents are going to come, their teachers, the administrators, and they get to share what they did this year. So on Monday, we'll be set up in our gym and we'll have tables all around. Everybody pair will be at a table and people will walk around. It's kind of like a science fair type venue where you're walking around and coming up to people. So they're not presenting in front of a large group. People are walking up to them and they're just sharing. What did you do this year? What did you love? Why did you like it? Show me everything that you did. And it's just a really powerful night for everybody involved. And the families love to see what the kids have been doing in class too. I think especially once you get to the middle school, high school level, we don't have like an open house where we get to see all the visual stuff that the kids have been working on. So this is kind of a little mini peek into what they've been doing all year.
And can I just add, Wendy, if I could just add any, last year coming to the culmination project, I learned so much from what the students have been doing throughout the year, how busy they have been. And the relationships were right there, just so shining bright. They were just standing, talking to each other, explaining and kind of taking turns, sharing about their experience this year. I cannot wait
medical issues and she had to leave. Her buddy is no longer, she's not supporting her one-on-one. So she's kind of stepping in and subbing for us when we have mentors who are out. So what I did for her culminating project, because she's like, I don't really know what to do. I don't have a buddy that I'm with every day. So she gave kind of an overview of peer mentoring and what she learned from it and how it impacted her and how it impacted her student and how it impacted how she thinks about things. So it's a whole different perspective from a lot of the other projects who are are based solely on what the student has accomplished. I have another student who is supporting a student in ASL, and the student they're supporting is selectively mute. So this student is chosen, they said, you know, they did not want to have any pictures taken, any videos taken, and they don't want to participate in the culminating project, the buddy, which is fine. So this is a very cool opportunity for this student. I said, why don't we shift, and why don't you present about what selective mutism is and how that can be impactful to that student in a setting like a high school, and how other people are impacted by that, and how we can help support. So we kind of can adjust on the fly too, based off of what's going on each year. I talked about recruitment, so we just kind of hit everything we can. It's in the course catalog. We're sending out information. We're posting it all over the walls. We have flyers. We're with the counselors, and we're meeting students and parents as often as possible. Jana had talked about the Parent Advisory Committee. They are very aware of this program, and so they also do promote it on their side too. Now we're going to
Brandy, here's a question from the chat that may be good for everyone. When do the peer mentors have scheduled time to meet with the case manager, or for you for check-ins, and is it built into their daily schedule?
Yeah, that's a great question. So they don't typically have contact with the case carrier because they're teaching their classes all day. I see them every day at the beginning and the end of class. So it's kind of difficult to picture it if you're not here. So here's what it looks like. I'm teaching my regular math class, and my mentors come in, they sign in, they check in with me. I see their faces, they pick up their binder that they use to support their student. And we can have a little, you know, during time during the first 5 or so minutes of class, we can have a little interaction there. And then at the end of class, they come back and check out with me. So we do have a little bit of check-in time there. We have a Canvas page. That's our online learning system that our district uses. And so I am pushing out information, assignments, videos that I create, and different pieces of information through that. And then we're meeting monthly in person. So either before school or during our office hours where we have interaction with each other. But the bulk of their time is spent with their students. So we're not sitting in class an hour each day as a typical class would be. Does that make sense? Okay, so this here is a couple of videos. So the first one is Coley and Josh. They attended a dance class together. And this video is going to have them just both talking about their experience in mentoring. Josh does use an iPad as a communication device. So you'll hear the iPad and then you'll hear him talk over it.
Hi, my name's Coley.
I took dance class with my favorite part of dance class was meeting new friends and learning new dance moves. I competed in dancing with the Broncos with Coley. I competed in dancing with the Broncos with Coley.
Working with Josh and one other student last year and 3 different students this year in peer mentoring has helped me to decide to study special education. When I graduate next spring, I plan to study special education, obtain a special education credential, and one day teach a class of my own. Working with Josh and his friends has helped me to realize what I want to do with my life. I will forever be grateful for the time I have spent with Josh and my other Bronco buddies. Go Broncos!
Go!
And now this next video, so Coley and Josh participated in what our school calls Dancing with the Broncos. So everybody on the school's dance team, it's like Dancing with the Stars. They get to pick a person that they dance with and they do a dance competition. So Coley chose Josh and this was their dance.
Step up to the plate, stop swinging. Lay on now, that's all this wanna do.
Okay, now I did want to share that Chloe and Josh are good friends now, and their relationship, because of the time that they were able to spend together at school, has continued outside of school. So Chloe is a senior now. Josh has graduated and moved on to our adult transition program, but they are still great friends. So Chloe has been able to hang out with Josh and another friend at the mall. And so Josh feels so cool because he gets to go to the mall without his mom. They have lunch and go shopping. And it's really just a really sweet friendship that has come out of that. So moving on from academics, we still are looking at activities and athletics also. Our district has a huge athletics program, but we also have a huge unified athletics program. So we have what's called Unified PE, and it is part of the Unified Champion Schools through Special Olympics. So each one of our middle schools and high schools have Unified PE, which is a course that has half students with IEPs and half students without, and they're working together the entire year. They're learning different skills and different games. Each one of our schools puts on a unified athletic event. So it's either softball or bocce ball or basketball or track. Each school picks a different event, and we actually pair with our district near us too. So we have in the high school, there's 6 events throughout the year, and it's like a mini Special Olympics 6 times a year. It's incredible. So there's an opening ceremonies, they play the games, they do the skills, they have some of their some of the people are fans in the stands, and they're there just to support, and they put on this huge event 6 times a year, and you get to travel to all of the different schools, just like you would if you were playing in a typical school sport. They also are able to letter. So we have our unified banquet on Monday, and our athletes will receive letters and then can get Letterman's jackets and things. This is a quote from one of our parents in our district. She said, "You don't know, but when you're a new mom and you don't have a clue that your son will have Down syndrome, you only hope and pray that kids will be nice to him and not hurt him. Your biggest worry is that your kid won't have friends. If I only knew how it would be, my mama heart would have been so much better back then." And she's talking about the relationships that her son has with typical peers because he's just been included in so many different things at the school. So the last thing is activities. So we have now what's called a unified leadership course. It's at each one of our high schools, and it's trickling down to our middle schools too. It's just like an ASB class. It's a leadership class, but again, it's unified. So half students with IEPs and half students without, and they're planning all of the inclusive activities on our campuses. So when there is a unified PE event at our school, the unified leadership class is the one that puts that on. When they do lunchtime activities during Autism Awareness Month, they had posters set out and different activities at lunch. And I actually have a student in one of my classes who has mentors, and her mentor came to me and said they were walking in the hallway, and it was during Autism Awareness Month, and there was a poster for autism awareness. And she said, "Oh, I have that." And the mentor said, "What?" And she said, "Autism. I have autism." And she said, "Oh, okay." And she said, "Do you have autism?" And she said, "No, I don't have autism." She was like, "Oh," and it was just representation in that she saw in the hallways that she wouldn't typically be able to see without that. Jana?
So we do as a district realize that there are some legal issues that we need to be aware of, and there are some things that we need to document through the IEP process or through the 504 processes. So I do want to encourage the districts as they look at the inclusion, make sure that their other processes through the IEP and 504 are clear, what to document, how to document, what is the SAI number of minutes or whatnot. So those things that do need to be clarified, and they may be different approaches that districts may take. For example, we have a way of supporting our students in extracurricular activities when students need to participate. Sometimes those are not planned, something may come up, and we know that students with severe disabilities may participate. We provide aid support for those activities. So we have a structure in our district, a spreadsheet and a communication that assistant principals have with the special education department. But we have worked those out, knowing that we have a high number number of our students with more intense needs actually participating in the extracurricular activities. We wanted to make sure that we have supports available for them. And we're further refining this process. We're actually having another meeting today. It happens to be today that our business department, I set up a meeting as the special ed director for the business and the risk management department come together with our legal support, and we're going to clarify some additional issues. So we're constantly evolving in this process. There's always a question, how much to document in the IEP, and do you really know ahead of time when the annual IEP is held? What activities students will be participating in, and how do you plan for that? What do you write? So these are some things that I encourage administrators and teachers and everybody work together with, again, with your legal support as well, just to make sure that those things are clear. Let's see. And in relation to some data that we pulled, not from this year, of course, because our students are just participating in CASP this moment right now as we speak, but from last year, we looked at the RSP students who are attending a general education class with their general education peers, and 16 to 19% of all of our 6th grade middle schools met CASP standards, met or exceeded, so they got a 3 or a 4 on CASP. And again, we have 4 middle schools. We looked at all 6th grade students. And then when we looked at the students who are 6th graders that are RSP students, and they're attending or they were enrolled in a pullout, what we call in our district a basic math, and that's a class where only students with disabilities are present or enrolled. 3 schools were 0% of our students met CASP, and 1 school had 1% of the students in the RSP pullout math met a 3, got a 3 or a 4. So that just really shows the power of our students with disabilities being in a general education classroom and looking up to their general education peers. And we also have co-teaching classrooms in our district, and this year, as we met with each co-teaching school, with each of the middle schools, we met with their co-teaching teams. One of the themes that came through the meetings was exactly that our students with disabilities, when they are in a setting that is specialized and around other students with disabilities, their motivation and their work production is just so much lower when they are in the general education classroom with the co-teaching. In the co-teaching setting, the same student will be in the morning in a pull-out class and be unmotivated, will be refusing work, not following directions. And when that student comes to the co-teach class in the general class, supported by 2 teachers, and he's there in front of his gen ed peers, he's sitting up straight, he is laughing, he's participating, he is really wanting to learn and do the best he can, and it's like almost like 2 different people. So it's amazing that power of the environment around you. So and again, it shows in our scores as well. And we are looking forward to the CASP scores this year, again, to analyze them, and we'll be happy to bring that back. Now, in relation to the budget impact, Brandy mentioned earlier that, it's not free, definitely this involves costs. So the districts that are engaging and looking into developing these types of programs do need to plan cost-wise. So these are different funding sources that we have used throughout the years. So we have grant for funding from Special Olympics, and we just have a great relationship with them. However, we do realize that at some point, more districts will be participating in Special Olympics and having those relationships with them. And we will, we have already been informed that our funding will decrease as more districts participate, which we're very happy to hear. We would love, more of that around us. We did use some of the funding for training and materials, and that came from the Special Education Learning Recovery Grant. That grant will be running out this year. We had some community donations through ASB. Those are ongoing. Our community is just very supportive of all of our efforts. Student fundraising efforts, again, that's ongoing. And we do prioritize the use of general education dollars, general fund dollars. for the events, and the fact that it's a unified event, those are general education events, so that helps. We have community donations, and again, national level partnerships as well. We collaborate with our business department in an ongoing manner, so that's just really critical. We give them an entire heads up for the year, what to expect, what transportation needs will be needed, for the unified events. We have, as Brandy mentioned, we have 6 at the high school level, we have 4 at the middle school level. A lot of transportation is involved, and we are also collaborating with the neighboring district. So those costs, additional costs, we try to give them a heads up as much as possible. We actually have a document about unified champion school events, and the document has about 20 questions, and we keep adding every year. And the questions are about, what is unified champion schools? How does it demonstrate in our schools? What is the cost? Who pays for what? What does the site pay, school site? What is the district responsible for? These are some things that need to be worked out and continuously be updated so that everybody's on the same page, because a lot of good stuff is going on in the district, but it does need to be orderly. It needs to be structured, fully supported, and people who are doing such a wonderful job, our amazing Brandies and other staff at school sites, they need to make sure that they're supported and the answers are clearly communicated to them. Now, in relation to the inclusion impact, we talked about the culture of the district. This is something that we have seen the shift over the years. In the past, again, I shared earlier how our approach to inclusion was very much skill-based. And the questions that would be asked at IEPs would be, does the student have the skills to perform, fully or well in the general education classroom? And do the staff and then parents may ask us, well, do your teachers have the skills to educate my child with such unique needs in the general education classroom? But now we see a shift in that language, and the questions that we mostly hear are, how can I best pair up the student with another student so that we can optimize the strengths of both general and special education students? And parents ask us questions such as, what are the co-teaching classes? What are the clubs and sports and activities that are unified? What can I engage my student in? And if my student is in track, who are the peers he will be with? Who will be his peers he'll be assigned to? So these are some just really different types of questions that are pretty amazing and focused on the students and on their learning, as opposed to more questioning, what are the skills? Can you really do it? And just the entire mindset and feeling of those IEP meetings has really changed. And again, this is just another reminder about the extracurricular activities, whether your school district decides to do it through an IEP and document those in the IEP, or some districts I know look at it as more of a 504-like function, so ADA plans. So these are some things. And again, we as a district are shifting. We used to more see it as a general support, but I think next year we are considering looking into specifically describing in the IEP what supports would be provided to a student, to many of our students who are participating in extracurricular activities. And the same activities are now also trickling down to elementary, because at the elementary level through the ELOP grant, we have more activities available, extracurricular for elementary students. And in the same fashion as we are supporting students at the secondary level in their extracurricular sports and clubs and etc., we will be doing we have been doing already and started similar supports for the under the ELOP grant.
Now, in terms of the different training materials, so I do have I can provide you with the materials that we're using. We adopted the small textbook that Dr. Rebecca Brooks wrote, and some of her materials that she was using for like our weekly logs and just the basic overall kind of different trainings that we give. So I have my email listed here and I'll throw it in the chat also, but you can always reach out to me and I can share those things with you. I can share any of the different things that I'm doing in my course, specifically the different trainings that I provide. And I can always jump on a Zoom with you too.
Well, Brandy and I just wanted to thank everybody. We have so much admiration and respect for this audience and just seeing the wide range of different roles that you represented today. We also saw somebody, a president or a special education director for the bargaining agreement. That this is wonderful that you're here. So thank you so much. And just like Brandy mentioned, we have met with several districts this year. Zoom or Teams is a great way to connect, but thank you. We appreciate, thank you for having us, Juliet.
Well, thank you to our amazing presenters and thank you to our attendees for your allyship, to our students with disabilities and their families. It's our mission at SIP to grow the educational system so we're able to innovate, include, and impact outcomes positively for all from birth to adulthood and beyond. The presentation slides and resources can be accessed in the session description section of the VFAIR's event page, agenda page. And we've also added a conference link in the chat, which I'll add in just 1 second. We would love your feedback on how the conference is going so far. Please take a moment to provide feedback about your overall experience and also suggestions for next year. Be sure to join us for additional breakouts at the 11:10 session. Also connect in the social lounge with like-minded attendees and post on social media using the hashtag SIPCon2023. And I will drop that link in the chat for everyone who's here, but just know that you have it available throughout today. So when you get a moment, please fill that survey out, and we look forward to reviewing your feedback and applying it to next year. But thank you so much. Enjoy your next 10-minute break, and we will see you for second round of breakout sessions at 11:10. Thank you so much, Brandy, Shauna, and Valerie. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. I'm going to close out Zoom.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.